Hey everybody, Chris and Sara here, life transformation and self-empowerment coaches with Soul and Wonder, and we are back for yet another video on the balance of giving and receiving.
Super important topic that I think most of us struggle with, so you're gonna like this one.
So a few years ago, back in 2017, Sara and I decided to do a little bit of an experiment around giving and receiving.
We were finding that we were particularly blocked, especially on the receiving front, and we wanted to explore what our blockages were.
Whether that was love, gifts, or anything else, it was really difficult for us to say, oh, or even a compliment even. Mm-hmm. I mean, we were talking down to the most minuscule things. And so we wanted to get curious and to see what that was really all about.
So what we decided to do was, because it was so easy for us to give, well, we wanted to also learn what were our motivations behind giving, and we'll reveal some of our insights here in a minute. What we decided to do was, for 1 week, one person would play the role of receiver and the other person the role of the giver. And then the next week we switched. And there were some rules. If you were in a space to receive what the other person was giving, you had to receive it without trying to give back.
Which is the hardest part. This type of experiment was really necessary for us to uncover any blocks that we had around receiving, because we were noticing a lot of things coming up in life. For example, let's say one of our parents or somebody wanted to give us a gift, possibly some money, to help us out while we were growing our business. It was really difficult for us to always receive that.
But the conflicting part was that we wanted the gifts. We wanted the financial support. We wanted the compliments, the love, all of the beautiful things that we are all worthy and deserving of, but yet we weren't accepting it. So when we're not accepting what's being given to us, what signals are we sending to our higher consciousness that is constantly creating the world around us? Let's share a few of our insights that we gained from our little experiment with each other. For us, ours obviously had an intimate component as well. Could I receive a massage from Christopher without feeling like I had to give him one back? That was probably one of the most difficult things for me, was receiving without feeling this intense need to reciprocate, as if I was indebted to him. Even if I didn't want to give him a massage back, there would be this fire inside me that's like, oh, no, you can't receive what he just gave you and not do something in return.
And I feel like that's a huge thing in regards to intimacy within relationships. You know, how many times have you done something for your significant other and expected to receive in return?
And that was the side of giving that was interesting for us.
Yep.
Because there was a point where I gave him a massage when it was my turn to be the giver, and I found a little resentment bubbling up inside of me when I knew I wasn't going to get anything back. What we started to learn through this experiment was that we had just as many blockages around giving as we did receiving, when we originally thought we only had blockages around receiving. How many of you have expectations when you give to someone? Do you keep a tally mark? Do you keep track of what you've given to this person so that in the future you can say, they didn't do anything in return?
Well, I did this, and this for you. And so what am I receiving on the other end?
And even if that's not vocalized, is it a subconscious resentment that starts to build up? So that's when we started questioning our motives behind giving. Were we only giving so that we would be able to receive that which we were giving? And that was a big eye-opener for myself, especially. I'm probably speaking for you as well, because it was a shadow part of selfishness and greed, of wanting. And we're taught over time and time again to never desire and never lust and long for, which, you know, that's why we've pushed it into the shadow and we've rejected it. And
Well, and we often say that we're too needy.
Mhm.
People say, "Oh, you're too needy. You expect way too much."
So we keep it to ourselves.
Mhm.
We don't voice that we want the massage. We don't voice that we need the hug or the kiss or the compliment or the money. We would rather the person just offer it out of their own free will. But then when they do, we question their motives. What do they want in return?
The other thing to that is really expecting that the other person's going to read your mind of what you do want. So that there then comes a point where we need to communicate our needs and communicate them in a way that is honoring the other person as well.
What we found through this experiment was an opportunity to reveal the many abundance blocks that we didn't even know we had, and the expectations that we were holding over ourselves and our partner that were perhaps limiting in and of itself. So through this practice of allowing, we started to realize that it's okay to open up and to be vulnerable in this space. It's okay to see that we have these fears, these blocks, and to most importantly, find the root. And I know for us and for all of you, it's always rooted in what we grew up around. What were the relationships that you viewed in your childhood regarding intimacy, financial wellness? How did people interact around you? And what was their relationship with these categories? Did your parents fight about money all the time? Were they always talking about
It's a big one.
not having enough? Did your parents fight about intimacy, not being enough, the other person not doing enough? So you start to create these stories and these agreements, these collective agreements about how people should behave regarding these certain topics.
And I want to note something that you said, which is super important, and that's on the topic of allowance. When we allow for all of our abundance in all areas of life to come in. And it is super important to get to that state. And that's what was the biggest point of this experiment that we did, was to really open up and allow for whatever to come our way.
To find our worthiness, to find that we are enough, and to fully believe it. And to understand that when someone is giving you something, no matter what it is coming from a place in them that wishes to do so. And you are aligning, you are in coherence on an energetic level with that frequency, with each other, to have that exchange. And that is beautiful. To reject it out of what we're taught as politeness is continuously telling yourself, your higher consciousness that creates your reality all the time, that you don't want these gifts and that perhaps you're not worthy of receiving them. So you continue to create a reality in which you are always stuck, not opened up to your abundant nature. So it's about unkinking that hose that we've referred to before about following your excitement. That abundant nature is always flowing. It never stops. We are the ones with our limiting beliefs and old stories that put the kink in that hose and prevent ourselves from fully receiving and fully giving with unconditional love.
By practicing, something like we did over and over and over again, we get to a state and a more balanced state within ourselves to be able to receive, to be able to give without expectations. And this has been quite the journey for both of us. And we've seen our life unfold in so many different ways because of the ways we started to allow and allow the gifts of the universe to come flowing in. And we are now at a point, and not saying that all of these abundance blocks are gone, but we are now at a point where we feel most comfortable and just more balanced and whole overall.
And there's layers to it, as we've said in other videos. There are always layers to it. When I thought I had finally released my block from receiving, I had an experience just the other day where I realized there was a deeper block that I wasn't aware of, which was another layer. We were offered this beautiful opportunity to check out a friend's vegan restaurant in Canada. He told us to come on over, order anything off the menu. He said, you can order the entire restaurant if you want. It's on the house. And when we got there, we were just spoiled rotten. But you see,
So
I just
delicious.
used the language spoiled rotten. You see the programming that's within us already. We associate being spoiled rotten with negative connotations. And that just came out of my mouth. So that's something I'm going to have to look at later. The language that I use around being given in a large amount, being given to in a large amount. So we sat down. We ordered what I felt comfortable ordering. We ate delicious, wonderful food. But then one of the supervisors kept offering more free food, more free products to take home, more free this, free that. Take a cookie, take the mayonnaise, she was just giving and giving and giving. And I realized that suddenly I found myself rejecting her gifts at a certain point. It was as though I was worthy enough to receive what I felt was polite to receive. But then I reached my reception limit, where suddenly I felt very uncomfortable. I can't take all of this when I've just taken this. So I realized I put a limit on my capacity to receive when I thought that I had done the work fully on reception. So on the way home, Chris and I, of course, as we always do,
dove deep and had a good conversation about all of that, which was necessary to be able for her to have the awareness to realize that, hey, there's still something going on. And I know within myself, there is still more layers to be peeled back. But having the awareness to be able to look at that and be able to take a step back and say, okay, like this is something that I'm going to continue to work on so that I continue to open myself up more.
And it comes down to worthiness. I believed I was worthy enough for a certain amount, but once that amount is reached, am I no longer worthy?
It was capped.
And it got us into this conversation of politeness. We're always being taught to be polite. You're taught by your parents to offer something to someone, whether you really want to offer it to them or not, just to be polite. And then they're taught to refuse it just to be polite. So we play these mind games with each other, and nobody ever knows who is being genuine in their offer and when are you supposed to accept it and when are you supposed to reject it. And that's the thing, the word supposed to. We need to get rid of that. We need to start following our hearts. We need to only offer when we truly are coming from a place of love and genuinely want to offer that one thing. And we need to only receive when we truly want to receive what's being offered and not reject it because we're taught to be polite. We need to enter that space with each other. It's time for all of us to encourage each other to stop being polite and be genuine, be authentic.
And this is a continuous unfoldment, but we encourage you to possibly do an experiment such as ours to help you to open up to all the wonderful things that are awaiting you and your divine potential.
To get deeper into the unworthiness that we often all carry from some kind of experience from childhood, we need to pinpoint where that comes from. When was the first time you felt you were unworthy of receiving or giving? And hold space for that moment. Be there, feel it, allow your body to feel it, and allow yourself to go to the time before that belief was ever created. What would your true self actually believe about your worthiness? Step into that space. Let that feeling take over your body. Bask in that joy, that love, that infinite potential. And from that space, create positive action. That's when you're ready to do an experiment like the giving and receiving exercise, or even just going to the store. Every time you give money to the cashier, you think, wow, I have this to give to someone. And every time they hand you the things that you receive, wow, I'm worthy of the things that I'm receiving. Next time someone gives you a gift without expecting you to give anything back, be appreciative, be grateful. And if more fears start to get triggered, make sure to observe them later and to fully examine them and embrace them for what they are.
And that element of gratitude is so important in all of this, because when we can truly feel grateful from our heart center, we are able to then receive the gifts of the universe that we deserve and be able to give unconditionally as well. So we encourage you guys to play around with this and see where it takes you. We'd love to hear your comments. You can comment right below this video, and we will talk to you very soon.
See you guys next week.